Well, it's going to be a massive year for DAFs, and that is something that was also sort of echoed by Adam Nash, the co-founder over at DAFI, Donor Advised Funds. Um, and I think that's right. In 2021 was the last time we saw this many IPOs in a given year, and it was also a massive jump in the donor advised funds that were recorded in that given year. For that, I think the number that you can kind of back into, and this is like, it's throwing in a dart, and I admit correlation is not causation, but roughly 16% of the values of those IPOs made their ways approximately into DAFs. So if we take 16% of these values, I don't even know what the values are going to be, but you move that around to what happens when these employees get, frankly, some liquidity, and that liquidity event means they have a taxable event. And inevitably, when you have that taxable event, you want to actually reduce that and control maybe how you would deploy that. Then you really get the upside of donor advised funds as a vehicle for charity, bringing down the taxable event in that year, giving you more time to make giving decisions with that surplus of wealth. That number of like over under $30 billion coming in to DAFs just from this is unique, and also important when you think about those employees, right? These are employees at AI companies or AI adjacent companies. What is their philanthropic menu look like? How do they view the impacts of AI, both positive and negative? What is your organization's role in that ecosystem? When you think about the communications and style of how you message out, I think these are interesting things to consider. Also, I'm not above taking out ads that would target these employees on, say, LinkedIn or on Meta. Like, there's ways of targeting companies. Ta-da! It's an interesting tactic. So I think this is a new massive philanthropic wave, but it's concentrated in a weird way.
Yeah, George, I think that's true. And if you want to think a little bit more critically about what this means, particularly what it means when these companies are minting new millionaires, essentially,
multi
uh,
multi
multi-millionaires. Right, George, I think it's important to say some of these companies are getting valued at just under $1 trillion in funding rounds, right? So that is a massive potential like liquidity event that is going to happen once they go public. So George, you actually created a calculator that you can access on nonprofitnewsfeed.com where you can choose kind of the wealth event that occurs, right? So you can choose your IPO company, SpaceX, OpenAI, Anthropic, and you can toggle between low, base, and high in terms of all these kind of adjusters for what this can mean to the market. And you can actually fine tune this calculator to select.
You can make your own article. You can make your own be like headline, like, oh, based on these things.
Right. So you can choose, right, the average liquid wealth per new millionaire as a slider, their philanthropic allocation, annual grant DAF distribution, right? It was about 25.2% was the annual DAF payout rate in 2024. You can slide that up and down. The distribution window, you could do 8 years, you could do 4 years, and you can kind of see the wealth that gets created and the potential upside or upshot for DAFs. However, George,
there's a but?
There's a but. There's a but. George, liquidity doesn't mean more nonprofits have more operating budgets immediately, right? Liquidity isn't generosity, and a DAF isn't a grant. So I think that's really important. So as excited as we are, right, this means that money's entering into this like hold and distribution system. And the steepest DAF funding hits 12 to 18 months post IPO, right? Not in year zero. So there's obviously a lag here. And second to this, George, is that how many nonprofits are not set up to accept stock gifts or can process DAF grants cleanly?
That's true.
Very true. So that if there was ever a time to invest in that infrastructure, right? I think that's important.
Yeah, I think another asterisk is that even though these dollars are being brought to DAFs, when you look at it from a back of a napkin, like the average distribution per year of 25-ish% plus or minus, then you factor in the appreciation of that over that time. The 2021, for example, that IPO boom, let's just take that bundle. When you apply those numbers to it, the appreciation minus the donation amounts, the distribution amounts, you still have almost half of the money like remaining after 5 years. So yes, it might be $30 billion, but it's not all coming today. And actually, it'll be 15 billion spread out over 25% distribution over a period of each year. So as that drumbeat continues, and also I think you're right. There's going to be a lot of shiny toys and be like, we need a new AI for the future foundation that will need to make a model that is safe. But in order to make that model safe, we're going to have to take on private investment from Microsoft. And then that nonprofit is actually going to have to become a for-profit to do it. And then that for-profit is going to have to go public in an IPO. And then we're going to take that money and donate that money to an AI nonprofit that makes AI nonprofits safe, in which you have to get public funding. It's turtles all the way down, Nick, sometimes, but that is what OpenAI, the nonprofit, is effectively doing.
Yeah, George, I think that's a good point. It's listen. I call it
there's
as
also,
I see it.
There's also like